Welcome back to my series of Mission Impossible reviews. We've covered the first 4 films in the franchise, and now we are covering Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, directed and written by Christopher McQuarrie, and is the first film in the franchise to be written and directed by him. In this film, Ethan finds out that this new organization called the Syndicate is an anti-IMF that have been sending terrorists around to kill people all over the globe, where they are led by Solomon Lane, played by Sean Harris. And both Ethan and his team have to work together to stop him and stop the Syndicate, while also running into a new agent named Ilsa Faust, played by Rebecca Fergusson, which Ethan gets interested by her and later starts to learn more about her, which makes him think that she can be a good asset for the team. Now, before I talk about this film, I just want to say if my voice sounds a little off and groggy, it's because I've been dealing with a little issue. It's nothing bad, it's just that I have the sniffles and my throat does feel a little groggy. So if my voice does feel off, I just want to let you guys know that. This film was highly anticipated because of Ghost Protocol, and this movie has everyone except Paula Patton returning for this film, and a lot of people were excited to go see Rogue Nation. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to see the film myself. I watched it at home when it was on Blu-ray. I for some reason didn't go and see the movie in the theater because I was a teenager at the time, and for some reason I didn't even go despite how excited I was. And I remember the hype for this movie very well. I remember seeing the first trailer when it was released, and I decided to not watch the other trailers after that because I felt like the first trailer for this film already gave me enough of what I was gonna see, making this film feel a lot more fresh than what I saw in the trailer, which of course in the trailer we get the famous scene where Tom Cruise is hanging on a plane while it's off, which show that this film had a lot to do with some practical stuff, like with more of Tom Cruise's crazy stunts. Like this movie does start with that famous plane scene where Ethan is just hanging on the side of the plane waiting for Benji to open the door for him, but while the plane's taking off, he accidentally opens the wrong door, that being the back door, and Ethan has to continue hanging on until Benji got to open the right door, making this a very fun opening and gives you the idea that this movie is definitely gonna be like the other films. And that should show that this movie is already off to a great start for a really good movie. Now, I don't love it as much as Ghost Protocol, and I will explain that later. So the missions are still fun and intense and suspenseful for when the main team have to go on a mission that they have to do, building up to a lot of the tension that Tom Cruise puts himself in when he's doing his own stunts. And we also get to see characters like Benji do more when he's out in the field. He's not just doing all the gadgets and helping Ethan with all the work. He's actually getting himself out there and getting himself into some bad situations while Ethan is dealing with his situation, where we also get scenes with Luther and Brand while they're trying to learn more about what the Syndicate is and who Solomon Lane is, where we still have some exposition scenes that are supposed to build up the tension, showing that this film does not have a dull moment. And I think Christopher McQuarrie did a really good job with this film. He sets up a lot of the scenes very well, making some of the missions feel like they have tension and build up a lot of that tension, and making us feel like we are experiencing Tom Cruise do all of these crazy stunts while doing these missions. And because of that, Tom Cruise decided to not go with a different director for each film anymore and decided to keep Christopher McQuarrie because not only do you think he did a great job with this film, but him and Tom Cruise have kind of been close. They do like working together, and if you've seen Tom Cruise give Christopher McQuarrie the Best Director Award at CinemaCon, then you would already know that. And they've been working together for a long time. Before McQuarrie directed any of the Mission Impossible films, he still worked with Cruise on other films, like he directed and wrote Jack Reacher, and before that he also wrote Valkyrie, which also starred Tom Cruise, also wrote Edge of Tomorrow, excuse me, and Top Gun Maverick. Alec. And when you watch the film itself, you can kind of see why they are friends, because McQuarrie directs his films really well, making them feel like you're in the situations that Ethan gets himself into, giving the film some great tension and suspense, while also doing some really good lighting for each nighttime scene. That's also supposed to build up some of the tension, like when characters are mentioning a dialogue heavy scene, you definitely feel a lot of that tension building up during that. And I like that they decided to have Benji do more in this film, because I did like him in Ghost Protocol. I like that he was the one making the gadgets and making some jokes, but here he actually gets to do more. He gets out in the field and helps Ethan in a terrible moment, and he provides some great humor thanks to Simon Pegg's performance. Now, one of the new characters in this film is Ilsa Faust, played by Fergusson, and she does a really good job as the character. Her character is very charismatic, smart, and is a complete badass. And we do get to learn a little bit about her as the film progresses, and once Ethan starts to learn more about her, he starts to get more interested in her and thinks that she could be good to help them. But the team are still suspicious about her because they think that she might be working with Lane. The action sequences are definitely a highlight. There's a lot of good hand-to-hand combat scenes and a lot of great stunts as usual from Tom Cruise. Like, there's this one great scene where they're on the mission and Tom Cruise has to hold his breath underwater for 3 minutes. Like, that is insane. Like, you can't hold your breath for that long. And then later after that, we get a car chase scene where Ethan is still a little messed up from the ocean, leading to a motorcycle chase that's very fast paced and very fun. Now let's talk about Solomon Lane. He is an interesting villain. You learn a lot about him and you understand why he's doing what he's doing. He's not a great villain though, because he doesn't do a whole lot as a villain, because he kills some people that Ethan knows and doesn't really do much. He usually just lets some of his men do the work for him, and when he's out there doing a mission on his own to ruin Ethan's life for a bit, it really doesn't last very long until the very end, which of course you do get to learn more about his plan, and you do get to see him do a little bit more in the finale. And Sean Harris gives a good performance as the character, and I will say this villain is actually an improvement over the villain from Ghost Protocol. Now, the reason I don't love it quite as much as Ghost Protocol is because the story doesn't feel like it has a lot of focus. It does at times feel like it's focusing more on the action and less than the story, which is still a great thing because that's one of the biggest highlights of this franchise, but I would have liked if they just had like a couple more scenes for the story to just slow down a bit and maybe make it feel less familiar, because Ethan is a fugitive again and he has to get help from his team again, where he has to stop a villain from doing a terrible thing that's happening around the globe. But the reason I can forgive that for being in this film is because the execution, from the acting, the characters, the action sequences, especially the action sequences, and it's very well directed, and a lot of that is done a lot better in Mission Impossible Fallout, which we'll get to that one soon. And Mission Impossible Rogue Nation is still an awesome movie that I do recommend watching, because this movie is more of a fun watch where you get to see Tom Cruise do all these crazy stunts, where in Fallout you do get to see more of that, but you also get to see a little more tension in the story. I'm gonna give Mission Impossible Rogue Nation an A-. So guys, if you have seen Rogue Nation, what do you think about it? Do you think it's as good as Ghost Protocol, or do you think that this is as bad as Mission Impossible 2? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like this video, then please leave a like and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss a thing, because it helps my channel grow. Hit the notification bell so you know what other videos I'm posting. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.